Hello everyone, and welcome to another game from the very strong international tournament that is the 1936 International Tournament in Moscow. Here we have a game between Mikhail Botvinnik and Andrei Lilienthal, or Andor Lilienthal, whichever you prefer. And I hope Lilienthal needs no introduction, as I've already done a couple of videos about him and did say a couple of words about him as an introduction. So if you haven't seen those, do check out. I will put both of the links in the description below. One is a game under Lilienthal that he played against Capablanca a year before this tournament. It was between 1934 and 1935 in Hastings, and Bobby Fischer had the highest praises for that game. I did mention that story when Bobby Fischer met Andor Lilienthal. He just mentioned that one move that Lilienthal played against Capablanca, just saying that was a great move and you are a great man. And another one is my video I titled The Clash of Legends, that is Lilienthal versus Nezhmetdinov. So I will put links to both of these games in the description below, feel free to check them out. So now we have Botvinnik versus Andor Lilienthal. It's a game from round 3 of the international tournament in Moscow 1936. The first two games, like Capablanca, Botvinnik also drew here, and in the first two rounds Botvinnik had the black pieces. First game he drew against Lasker, and second game, believe it or not, Botvinnik drew against Nikolai Vasilyevich Krylenko, the guy that blundered the queen to Capablanca in my previous video. So yeah, that does happen in chess. So this is round number 3, Botvinnik faces Andor Lilienthal. So let's check it out. And I did find some information about this game actually winning the Brilliancy Prize in 1936 Moscow tournament, but I couldn't verify it. So I will still, if I will be able to verify it, I will let you know. Knight to f3, we have knight to f6, c4, b6, g3, and bishop to b7. Bishop to g2, we have c5, so the English opening, the symmetrical variation. We have castles by Botvinnik, g6 now, going for the double fianchetto, d4, and c captures on d4. Knight captures on d4, and the bishop captures on g2. King captures, so the light square bishops are off the board, and bishop to g7 now. Knight to c3, we have castles, and e4 now. So Botvinnik pretty much plays very natural moves, just developing pieces, controlling the center, c4, d4, both of them controlling d5. And after knight to c6 and bishop to e3, it's not all that simple to find a nice game plan. So far, okay, black's moves were also very natural, but now you kind of do want to do something with the d pawn and the e pawn. You can't go d6 as your knight would be hanging. You can't really push e6 or e5 for that matter. If you try something like this, then knight b5 comes, and then the knight is coming to d6. It would be a very passive position for black to play. So after bishop to e3, we have queen to c8. Lilienthal gets the idea. He wants to place his queen on b7. We have b3, queen to b7, and now f3, protecting d4 pawn and also not allowing any tactics with this queen b7, king g2 ideas. Rook f to d8, we have rook to c1, and now rook a to c8. Both of the rooks are now developed. Queen to d2 by Botvinnik, preparing maybe, if black allows it, some bishop to h6 ideas. We have a6, and now comes rook f to d1, countering both black rooks on the c and d file. Knight captures on d4, bishop captures on d4, and d6 now. We have a4 by Botvinnik, simply controlling the board, not allowing Lilienthal any, too much to do. We have knight to e8, and now knight to d5, a very nice square for the knight. We have rook to c6, and now bishop captures on g7. Knight captures on g7, and now comes h4, further controlling the board. We have rook to e8, as this knight is eyeing that e pawn, and if the queen ever moves, then this would be quite bad for black. We have rook to c3, and now comes knight to h5, and here we have queen to d4. Botvinnik could have seized the opportunity with g4, saying this knight is quite a lousy move, but he prepares it with queen to d4, further pressuring the b6 pawn, now attacked twice, but also preparing g4, as the knight will no longer be able to retreat to f6, and well, black is pretty much running out of options here. So, although this was the best move for black, knight to f6 was not played. Here, Lilienthal played b5, breaking the tension on the queen side. But knight to f6 was in fact the best move, because now after knight captures, pawn captures, Botvinnik doesn't have the option of actually capturing an f6, because after queen captures, d5 is coming. Opening up an attack towards Botvinnik's queen, and after queen moves, then comes the d captures on e4, f captures on e4, and now rook c to e6 with this triple attack on the e4 pawn and slightly loose white king. Black would definitely have a nice position and compensation here. So after this queen to d4 move, Lilienthal didn't find knight to f6, rather he went for b5. We have c captures on b5, a captures on b5, rook d to c1, doubling up. Rook captures on c3, rook captures on c3, and b captures on a4. And here you do have a couple of options. You could recapture the pawn, b captures on a4, you could play queen captures on a4. But if you are a beginner, then you should really train yourself, train your brain, not to do automatic captures. You know, if he captures my pawn, I'm just going to capture his pawn. If he captures my piece, I'm just going to capture his piece. Chess is about something more. So here I want you to pause the video and try to find the in-between move Botvinnik played that immediately wins the game for white. So I will give it a couple of seconds for you to decide. So you know, feel free to try and solve this very nice idea. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you've just spotted an excellent move. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, here Botvinnik played rook to c7. The idea is very simple. You do have to move the queen. Your queen is under attack, and then knight captures on e7 is coming, whatever black plays. Here the obvious queen captures on b3 loses instantly, because after knight captures on e7 check, king moves, and queen to h8 is checkmate. And even if you don't play king to f8, if you capture the knight, then rook to c8 will again be checkmate, as the king has nowhere to go, rook has to block, and then rook captures on e8 will once again be checkmate. So after this rook to c7, Lilienthal thought he only had one idea. He played queen to b5, and now Botvinnik, believe it or not, played b captures on a4. It's very interesting that knight captures on e7 also wins on the spot. Of course, king to f8 runs into checkmate, and of course after rook captures you cannot play rook to c8 check, because rook would simply block. The queen is now protecting the, e8 from b5, but you can simply capture this. And after a captures on b3, yes, that is a very annoying passed pawn, but simply rook to c7 with the threat of rook to c8 will win the game on the spot. You have to prevent this. Let's say queen e5, forcing a trade, queen captures, pawn captures, and after rook b7 you will win the pawn, and then you have a winning endgame. But Botvinnik says, you know, I'm not that kind of a guy. I want to play b captures on a4, and now if you capture my pawn, I'm gonna do this just the same, but at the end of this variation you're not gonna have a passed b pawn. So very nice move by Botvinnik, but he also has to figure out what happens after queen to e2 check. So queen captures immediately loses to this move, so he tried queen to e2 check. We have queen to f2, and now queen captures. King captures, and now comes e6, protecting his pawn. We have knight to b6, knight to f6 now, a5, now that is a powerful passed pawn, so Botvinnik will push it, as passed pawns must be pushed. Rook b8, now preventing a6, as the knight would fall, but simply rook to c8 with check, forcing a trade of knights. Rook captures, knight captures, and now knight comes to e8. We have a6, knight to c7, attacking the passed pawn. We have pawn to a7, and now knight to a8. And although the material on the board is equal for the moment, knight captures on d6 is coming, and it will be very hard for Lilienthal to play this. It's a completely winning position for white, and it's very educational how Botvinnik does it. He plays knight captures on d6. We have king to f8, Lilienthal tries to activate his king. We have e5, protecting the knight, king e7, now king e3. Botvinnik also tries to activate his queen, not tries, he attempts at activation of his king. We have f6. And now knight c8 check, followed by e captures on f6 is winning also, but Botvinnik plays another winning idea, simply king to f4. And now you don't want to capture on e5. That would simply improve, the position of white king. And also white doesn't really want to capture on f6 immediately. That would simply improve the position of the black king. But as black doesn't really have all that much to do, he pushes h6. We have knight to c8 check, king moves, and now king e5. We have king to g7, king d4, knight to c7. Black can only wait and see what happens. King c5, and it was in this position on move 44 that Andro Lilienthal resigned the game. Why did he resign? Well, there's really no defense. Whatever black plays, white will simply go after the knight. Knight moves, king attacks knight, and it's all over. After the knight moves, king will capture it and then promote his a pawn to a queen. So as you can see, there were a lot of different ways in which Botvinnik could have won this game, but Botvinnik, chose the simplest one, which is always the correct thing to do. So yeah, he didn't go, especially in this position, that was very funny. Here after queen b5, he didn't go for knight captures on e7. If you calculate this position, you can easily reach, the position and understand that it's completely winning for white. But Botvinnik says, nope, I'm gonna capture the a4 pawn first, and then gonna play this. It's just, I mean, it's the same idea, but why leave black with an extra pawn to worry about, even for one more move? That's the kind of guy Botvinnik was. Even at such a young age. So yeah, that's the game, and it's very interesting how after drawing 2 games he wins this one against such a strong opponent, and Capablanca after drawing 2 games, basically gets a free win against a player who drew against Botvinnik in the second round. So a very interesting tournament so far, the 1936 International Tournament in Moscow. I do hope you're enjoying it, and we're gonna check out a couple of more of them. So yeah, once again, if you haven't voted for my next big series, there will be a link in the description below. Also, you can check 2 of my previous videos here, and do check 2 of the videos played between Nejmedinov and played between Lilienthal and Capablanca, and between Lilienthal and Nejmedinov. As if this is the first time you're hearing about Andro Lilienthal, definitely do check them out. So yeah, once again, I do hope you enjoyed them. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon.